Hitting level 60 for the first time is pretty epic. There's just so much to do. Get Prebis gear, farm gold, battlegrounds, and of course raiding, which is one of the most amazing gameplay that WoW has to offer, or so I'm told anyway, because I've never actually raided before except for a small amount in retail WoW. However, tomorrow that changes, because my guild is running a Molten Core and a Nixia run for socials, alts, pugs, and fart and sniff if he wants, because I am not allowed anywhere near the guild's core raiding group. I mean, how could they? Yeah, that's fair enough. In case you haven't watched any of my previous videos, then I would like to introduce you to my character, Fart and Sniff. The raid starts tomorrow at 7 PM, and it is currently the day before around 5 PM, and I've still got a lot to do before then. First of all, I need to get all of the world buffs, Rallying Cry of the Dragon Slayer, Warchief's Blessing, all of the Dire Maul buffs, and the Songflower buff from Felwood. Then, I need to learn engineering and spend a few hours training it and learning the needed recipes. But before all that, I wanted to take care of my gear. Now, whilst my gear certainly isn't bad, there is just one slot that I still needed to upgrade, and that is my shoulders, as I was currently running these slam shot shoulders, and they're definitely not bad, but they needed to be upgraded a bit. Preferably with either the True Strike shoulders, which would bring me up to hit cap, or the Spaulders of Valor. Now, both of those items would come from the dungeon Upper Blackrock Spire, so whichever one dropped first, I would be okay with. Now, it wouldn't be an iDucky video if I didn't forget to hit record, but you know how this goes anyway. We start by clearing out all of these little rooms in order to progress through the dungeon. We then make our way into the first boss's room and patiently wait for the mobs to be awakened, and then we quickly cleave them down and charge at the boss. Now, this boss does luckily have the chance to drop the True Strike shoulders, so hopefully we don't have to spend too much time here. But of course, it wouldn't be an iDucky video if I got it on the first attempt. We then make our way past the eggs, being careful not to trample them, and spawn a gazillion little drakes. Now, usually there would be a second boss, Jed Runewatcher, who doesn't have a 100% spawn chance, and we did try our best to fish out a spawn so that the casters could have a chance at getting the loot that they needed, but we were out of luck. We then make it to the third and final boss for our run, Rend Blackhand. Now, we only go up to this boss because Rend drops quite a lot of different loot that is really good. He would also have the chance to drop these Spaulders of Valor we were after, and maybe we could pick up some other nice pieces of loot along the way. But first, we take on a few waves of mobs that come out of this big gate thing, and then Rend himself comes out riding on a dragon, because why not, I guess. We take Rend down, and Spaulders of Valors didn't drop, but there was a couple other nice things that I wouldn't mind having just to have, and I end up winning his eye patch. So I actually ended up running UBRS for a few hours, and I had it in one nice big recording, but my power went out and the file got corrupted, and that's the joys of living in the Scottish countryside. You know, if I sneeze too hard, the power goes out. But of course, the power comes back on, and I head back into the dungeon for run number, I think 6 or 7. But we do this run just like any other run. Clear rooms, wait patiently, cleave mobs, charge first boss. Makes sense. And you know, I do like dungeons. They are definitely one of my most favourite things to do in WoW. But doing the same one over and over again does start to get quite tedious after 7 or so runs. Don't trample eggs, kill Jed. Ooh, would you look at that? Kill waves of mobs, kill Rend, Rend kills me, and nothing. Now, of course, I don't stop there. I went back for yet another run. Clear rooms, wait patiently, charge boss. Now, at this point, I was starting to get pretty bored of doing this over and over, and it's not like I was farming something with a super low drop rate like my SGC, which has less than a 1% chance of me getting it. And of course, nothing. So moving straight to run number 9, clear rooms, wait patiently, cleave mobs, charge boss. And this time, we actually got True Strike Shoulders. And I was actually hoping for these over Spaulders of Valor, since this would give me an extra 2% hit chance, and that would bring me up to hit cap. So we finally got my much needed shoulder upgrade. Now I do think there is still room for improvement, like potentially getting Spaulders of Valor and using the Battleborn arm braces plus the Satyr's bow to get that extra 2% hit chance. I could also get Reaver Claws for an extra bit of crit chance, and upgrading my helm to the Lionheart helm. And of course, getting double Dal Ren for my weapons, which might actually be easier than I think because I already had the offhand stored away in my bag. But all that is for another time, because once I got my shoulders, I decided to log out for the day. Logging on the next day, I had already spent most of the day editing a video, and there was only around 5 hours left until invites for the raids went out, and I still had a few things left to do: get world buffs, and level engineering. With those two thoughts in my mind, I thought that I could easily get engineering leveled in an hour or two. So I looked up a guide, clutched my gold tightly, not wanting to let go, and headed straight for the auction house to start buying the materials I would need. Now I was told that I could level engineering relatively cheaply if I just didn't follow a guide, because that's what most people do, and that leads to the materials getting rather pricey sometimes. But I am lazy, and I just wanted to get this done nice and easily. And I also wanted to do this in stages, you know, journeyman, expert, then artisan, just in case I could make any cuts and make leveling this just ever so slightly cheaper, which would mean a lot of running back and forth from the auction house, my profession trainer, and the anvil. But I was okay with that. I mean, I've got 5 hours still. I've got plenty time, right? 5 hours very quickly turned into 4 hours left, which very quickly turned into 3 hours, then 2 hours. And I was starting to think that maybe spending the extra gold in order to save time was maybe worth it, because I still needed to get my world buffs. And it was at this point that I remembered that the Chrono Boon Displacer has a 1 hour cooldown, and I only had 2 hours left until the raid. And on top of that, I still had something to do IRL before the raid began. Now luckily I did manage to catch myself a rallying cry of the Dragon Slayer before I came to Ironforge, so that was at least 1 buff down. Now I was also informed that a member of my guild has an entire operation going down at Dire Mall, summoning people and charging them for buffs. But of course it's free for the guildies. But he wasn't quite ready to go just yet, so I made the trip down to Felwood and had to quickly research how to get the Songflower buff. And it turns out there is an entire process with turning in a quest, then cleansing a flower. And of course I got to work trying my best to get it done, until someone told me that all I had to do was find the flower, because once someone had cleansed the flower, it would stay cleansed for like 8 hours. And then of course, right in that moment, the Dire Mall guy was ready to go, so I would have to abandon this for now and head over there. So once we were in the Dire Mall dungeon, I gotta admit I was slightly confused, since Dire Mall isn't a dungeon I have ever been in before. But with the help of my friend Lev, who has helped me on many other occasions, he guided me through the dungeon to get my buffs. However, by the time we had done this and gotten back to Felwood, we wouldn't be able to lock in any more buffs. So I would have to forget about Warchief's Blessing and go get the Songflower buff, but leave it loose on my character without a boon. So I would just have to hope and pray that there aren't any PvP groups hanging around Blackrock Mountain and that I can get into the raid unbothered. Surprisingly enough though, we did manage to make it all the way through Burning Steps and into Blackrock Mountain without any bother, and that might be due to the fact that I was one of the last people in the instance to enter. And after around 5 minutes of patiently waiting and soft reserving the pieces of loot I wanted, and I'm not going to lie, I have no idea what I soft reserved, we all started popping our consumes and unbooning our buffs, and pulled the first couple of mobs. Now I can't lie, I don't think I've ever been so nervous to play WoW in my life. I mean, I've raid led in retail before, but now I realise that raid leading a bunch of drunk Scotsmen in retail is far less nerve-wracking than raiding for the first time with one of the best guilds in the world. We then jump down through this nifty little skip and start making our way towards the first boss, Lucifron, who we take down in about 15 seconds. Now you may be asking, what preparations have I done beforehand? Have I studied the mechanics? Do I know the route? Do I know what to be careful of? Absolutely not. I didn't do a single piece of research whatsoever. Then again, I don't think I even noticed any mechanics when we were fighting Lucifron. We then clear out all of Magmadar's dogs, and I imagine that this is when the dynamite I was supposed to bring would come in handy. We then of course obliterate Magmadar in about 10 seconds. We then head over to kill Gehennis, and I assume I was supposed to target the ad with the skull first, but even if that's not what I was supposed to do, that's what I did anyway. We then go to kill Gar. Now one tank took the ads away, so assuming that means we are supposed to nuke Gar himself, and that's what everyone else was doing, so I just followed right behind them. We then kill Big Baron Geddon. Now this one, I actually do know what's going on here because of a recent event. And I may have not been playing WoW for all that long, but long enough to know that giant pulsing flames coming out of a raid boss usually means backup just a tiny bit. And we're making our way up to Shazra, and I guess I'm just not paying attention. I mean, I'm inside of 5 mobs, I can't really see what's going on, and I die. Well done, Fart and Sniff, this was your one chance and you blew it. I blame the healers. We make our way up to Shazra without our world buffs, and I mean, it's not like I was doing much anyway, but it still made me feel cool. We then go and kill Golemag the Incinerator, and I won't lie, it took me a minute to realise that this was a boss. I just thought it was another one of those giant molten guys. We then go to kill Major Domo Executus, and I still don't know how this fight works. I mean, there's a bunch of snakes, and the boss is over there. Did we even actually fight the boss? I really don't know. And last but not least is Ragnaros. And whilst we were approaching this boss, I quickly looked up the mechanics for this fight, and I got to look at it for an entire 4 seconds before we pulled it. But it was actually fine, we just stacked together and I spammed Heroic Strike and Bloodthirst. And with that, we had cleared Molten Core in under 30 minutes. We all take a portal back to Ironforge and begin to roll on the loot, and there really was zero loot that was good for warriors. So what did I think of my first raid experience in WoW Classic? Well, it's definitely different to retail, and I mean, I expected that going in, and it was short. And I did speak to some people afterwards, and they said that was mainly because we were raiding with so many good players, and if I was in a pug, it would more than likely have taken multiple hours, and that's fair enough. Let's talk just a little bit about mechanics. In retail, every single person in the raid needs to know what they are doing, but clearly that isn't the case in Classic. There probably is mechanics that I'm missing, and once I've done a bit of research, which I still, as I'm recording this, have not done. So as I said in the start, we are also doing an Onyxia run. Well, they are, I'm not, because I'm not attuned for Onyxia yet. So away the guild went to take her down. And I mean, there's always next week, right? Hope you all enjoyed today's video, because I enjoyed making it. I always do. Just a big thank you to you guys in general. You guys absolutely smashed it on both of my most recent videos. So really just big thank you from me to you, you know? It means a lot to me that so many of you guys like my videos and really motivates me to keep making them. Remember, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Not like the video, like the video. I really don't know how to end these videos anymore. So, enough yapping. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all later.